Dadperfectrevenge. Part 1/4. The wedding. I wasn't invited to the wedding. I wasn't invited to. We got married yesterday, Dad. It was just for special people. My daughter Emily said this while wearing a $50,000 engagement ring I'd paid for, sitting in a $1.2 million penthouse I'd bought her as a wedding gift, eating dinner on furniture I'd financed. I wasn't special enough to watch her say, "I do." But I was special enough to pay for it. My name is Harold Bennett. I'm 67 years old. And that dinner was the night I stopped being a father and started being a landlord. I've spent 40 years in the construction business, started as a lumber hauler in Chicago, winters that could freeze your bones, worked my way up, eventually owned the company. These hands are rough, calluses that won't ever go away. Souvenirs from pouring concrete and hauling 2x4s when most guys my age were sitting in offices. I'm the kind of guy who wears flannel shirts and work boots because that's who I am. Never saw the point in pretending otherwise. But that Sunday evening in May, sitting at the dinner table in the penthouse on North Lakeshore Drive, I felt those rough hands start to shake. "Yesterday," I said, my voice came out quieter than I wanted. "But I was home. My phone was on. I was waiting to hear when you'd set a date." Tyler Crawford, my son-in-law, married all of one day apparently, set down his wine glass and sighed like I was a child who didn't understand basic math. Tyler's 31, works in what he calls tech entrepreneurship, which as far as I can tell means he has a website and some business cards. "Look, Hal," he said, "nobody calls me Hal except people who don't respect me. My friends call me Harold. My family used to call me Dad." It was at the Ritz-Carlton, about 200 people, very curated guest list. You know how you are in those settings, uncomfortable in a suit and tie. We didn't want you standing around in your old jacket, feeling awkward among the investors and Emily's architecture colleagues. We did it for you, really, saved you the stress. Emily wouldn't look at me. My only child, my daughter, the girl I used to carry on my shoulders through Lincoln Park, just pushed asparagus around her plate with a fork that probably cost more than my first truck. "It was intimate," she finally said, her voice so small I almost didn't hear it. "We're planning a backyard barbecue for you later, Dad. Next month maybe. Something more your speed, burgers and beer. Something more my speed." While they drank $200 champagne at the Ritz-Carlton with 200 of their closest friends. I looked at Emily's left hand as she reached for her wine glass. That diamond on her finger caught the light from the crystal chandelier overhead. I knew that ring intimately. 3 months ago, Tyler had come to me saying he wanted to show Emily how much he loved her. He needed help with the ring, he said. The jeweler wanted $50,000. I wrote the check that same day. That was my money on my daughter's finger, and I wasn't there to see her accept it. Wasn't there to walk her down the aisle. Wasn't there to give the father of the bride speech I'd been mentally writing since she was 5 years old. I stood up from the table. The chair scraped against the hardwood floor I'd paid to install when I bought this place for them 6 months ago. The penthouse with the view of Lake Michigan that costs $6,500 every month in HOA fees and building costs. Fees I'd been covering since the day they moved in. See, I'd bought this condo as a wedding gift, put it in Emily's name, told her I'd handle the monthly fees until she and Tyler got established. I wanted my daughter to start her marriage in a beautiful home. I wanted her to feel secure. "Congratulations on your wedding," I said. My voice was steady, surprisingly steady. "I hope it was everything you wanted." "Dad, don't be like that," Emily said, but she still wouldn't meet my eyes. Tyler leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine. "We'll send you photos, Hal." The photographer got some great shots. I didn't answer. I just walked to the door, opened it, and stepped into the hallway. Didn't slam it, just closed it softly, like closing a book on a chapter I'd rather not read again. The elevator ride down to the lobby felt longer than usual. I watched the numbers descend, 41, 40, 39, and with each floor, something inside me got colder and harder. As I drove home that night in my old pickup truck, I wasn't crying. I wasn't even particularly sad. I felt like a businessman who just realized he'd been funding a bad investment for too long. And businessmen don't cry, they cut their losses. I pulled over at a rest stop and took out my phone. Called my lawyer, Judy Palmer. We've known each other 20 years. She handled all my property deals when I was building my company. "Harold," she answered on the second ring. Everything okay? It's kinda late. Judy, I said, watching the headlights blur past on the highway. I need you to pull the file on the North Lakeshore property, Unit 41, the penthouse. There was a pause. That's Emily's place, the one you bought her. That's the one. I want you to look at the ownership structure, and I want you to prepare some paperwork. What kind of paperwork? I took a breath. I think it's time my son-in-law learned what it actually costs to be special. Part 2/4. The wedding. I wasn't invited to. 3 days went by without a word from Emily or Tyler. No call to explain, no apology, nothing. I spent that time doing what I do best, working. Not physical labor anymore, but the kind of work that comes from owning 5 residential towers in Chicago and having $80 million in assets that nobody knows about, except Judy and my accountant. See, everyone thinks I'm just a retired contractor with a decent pension. They see the flannel shirt and the work boots and the old Ford pickup, and they make assumptions. They don't know that for 40 years, every dollar I made went into buying land and buildings. They don't know that when the market crashed in 2008, I bought 3 properties for pennies on the dollar. They don't know I own the building Emily and Tyler live in. They think they're connected to some faceless corporation called Bennett Holdings. They've never asked who Bennett is, never wondered why the name on their HOA statements matches their last name. Emily just assumed it was a coincidence. I was sitting in my usual booth at Lou's Diner on the south side, the kind of place where coffee costs $1 and the eggs come with hash browns whether you want them or not, when my phone rang. Tyler's name lit up the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering, let him sweat a little. "Dad," he said, and I noticed he called me Dad now, not Hal. Funny how that works. "Dad, where have you been? We've been trying to reach you. Is everything okay?" In the background, I could hear Emily crying. "I'm fine, Tyler. Just been busy. What's wrong?" "It's the 10th, he said, his voice tight with panic. "The money, the transfer for the monthly building fees. It hasn't shown up. The management company portal is showing we're delinquent. Did you forget to process it?" I took a slow sip of my coffee. It was bitter and hot and perfect. "Oh, that," I said. "Well, son, I've got some bad news. Things are tight this month. My pension check got delayed. Some kind of administrative mix-up. Real headache." Dead silence on the other end. "What do you mean tight?" Tyler finally asked. "Dad, the fees are $6,500. We don't have $6,500. We spent everything on the wedding. You know that." "I know, son, but I'm afraid I can't help you this time. I've got to buy my blood pressure medication. Got to fix the transmission on the truck. But you guys are doing well, right? Emily's got her architecture job, and Tyler, you're running that AI startup. I'm sure you can figure it out. You just need to budget better." "Budget? Better?" Emily's voice cut in. She must have grabbed the phone. "Dad, this isn't funny. Do you know what happens if we don't pay? They'll put a lien on the property. They'll put a mark on our credit. We have a reputation in this building." I set down my coffee cup carefully. The waitress, a young woman named Nancy, who's working her way through community college, glanced over. I gave her a small wave that everything was fine. "Emily," I said, my voice dropping low and cold. "I'm not joking. I'm just broke. At least, that's what you should assume. You wanted me out of the picture, remember? You didn't want me at your wedding because I'd ruin the aesthetic. Well, my wallet disappeared along with me." "But we have an arrangement," she said. "You promised you'd cover the fees until we got established." "I did, and I kept that promise for 6 months. But things change. You're established now. You had a $200 a plate reception at the Ritz-Carlton. That sounds pretty established to me." "Dad, please," Tyler broke back in, and now he sounded like he was crying. "We literally don't have it. What are we supposed to do?" I gripped the edge of the table. 40 years of construction work, of saving every penny, of living below my means so I could give my daughter a better life. And this is what I got. A son-in-law who couldn't figure out how to pay his own bills, and a daughter who thought I wasn't good enough to watch her get married. "You do what every other adult in this country does," I said. "You get a job that pays more. You sell things you don't need. You figure it out. That's what I did when I was your age and couldn't afford rent. I worked double shifts. I ate ramen for dinner. I struggled. Now it's your turn." "But Dad," I hung up, sat there for a long moment, breathing in the smell of bacon grease and coffee and working-class dignity. This diner was my kind of place. Real people, real work, real respect. Nancy came over with the coffee pot. "Refill, mister." Bennett, please. She poured, then hesitated. Everything okay? You look upset. Just family stuff, Nancy. Nothing I can't handle. She nodded sympathetically. My dad always says family's the hardest job you'll ever have. Your dad's a smart man. After she walked away, I picked up my other phone, the one I use for business, and dialed Vernon Hayes, the building manager who reports directly to me through Bennett Holdings. Vernon, I said, has the notice been delivered to Unit 41 yet? Walking up there right now, sir. Got the envelope in my hand. Official notice of delinquency and intent to file a lien. Red urgent stamp, just like you requested. Good. Make sure it's visible when you slide it under the door. I want them to see it the second they come home. Will do, Mr. Bennett. Sir, if you don't mind me asking, isn't that your daughter's unit? It is, I said, which is why I know exactly what they can afford to lose. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the diner window. Gray hair, weathered face, rough hands wrapped around a cheap coffee mug. I looked like exactly what I was, a working man who'd built something from nothing. Tyler and Emily looked at me and saw a janitor, an embarrassment, someone to hide from their fancy friends. They had no idea they were looking at the man who owned their home, their view, their whole comfortable life, but they were about to find out. Part 3 out of 4. The wedding. I wasn't invited to. 2 weeks later, I got another call from Tyler. This time, his voice was different, weak, trembling, scared. Dad, he whispered. Dad, I'm at Northwestern Hospital. I collapsed on the street. My chest, it felt like an elephant sitting on it. I can barely breathe. My blood went cold. Every parent's worst nightmare, even when that child has broken your heart. What's wrong? Where's Emily? She's in the waiting room, he said, his breathing ragged and uneven. The doctors say it's a valve issue, some kind of congenital defect they found on the scan. They need to operate immediately, Dad. Emergency surgery. But there's a problem. What problem? Our insurance lapsed last month. His voice cracked. We couldn't afford the premiums after the wedding costs. And the hospital, they won't operate without a deposit. They need $50,000 up front, or they say they can't do the surgery. Please, Dad. I don't want to die. I'm only 31. Please. My hand was already reaching for my wallet, already calculating how fast I could get to the bank, how quickly I could wire the money. Whatever anger I had, whatever hurt, none of it mattered if Tyler was dying. I'm coming right now, I said, standing up from my kitchen table. Which hospital? I'll be there in 20 minutes. No, don't come yet. They're prepping me for surgery. They won't let anyone back here anyway. Just wire the money to my account. It's faster that way. I can pay the hospital directly from my phone. Every minute counts, Dad. Please, wire it to his account. Something about that struck an odd note, but I pushed it aside. This was life or death. Okay. Let me pull up my banking app. Just hold on, son. Then my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from the private investigator I'd hired 2 weeks ago. Judy had recommended him, said he was expensive but thorough. I'd hired him to track Tyler's spending, see where all that wedding money had really gone. The message contained a single photo. It showed a man in a white terry cloth bathrobe, standing at a spa reception desk. He was holding a glass of cucumber water. He was laughing, looking healthy and relaxed, and very much alive. His face was clearly visible. It was Tyler. The timestamp on the photo read 10:37 a.m., 12 minutes ago. The location tag read Azure Sanctuary Spa and Wellness Center, 45 minutes outside Chicago. I stared at that photo for a long time. Tyler's ragged breathing continued in my ear, a performance worthy of an Academy Award. Dad, he said, adding a little wheeze. Are you still there? The pain, it's getting worse. They're saying I might not make it if we can't get the deposit in the next hour. I sat back down, took a slow breath, then another. I'm at the bank, I lied, my voice perfectly calm. But there's an issue, Tyler. Most of my money is tied up in CDS and retirement accounts. I don't have $50,000 just sitting liquid in my checking account. Can't you break the CD, take the penalty? That would take 3 business days to process, but I've got the old pickup truck. You know, the Ford I've been driving for 15 years. There's a collector who's been after me to sell it to him. Classic trucks are worth good money now. He offered me $45,000 last month. There was a pause. I could practically hear Tyler's brain working, recalculating. "How long would that take?" he asked. His breathing sounded a bit stronger now. "Well, I'd have to call him, arrange a meeting, get the title transferred, wait for his bank to clear the check. Maybe 2 weeks? I can push him to move faster, but these things take time. Can you ask the doctors to put you on a payment plan for a couple weeks? Tell them the money's coming?" Another pause, longer this time. I think I can convince them," Tyler said. His voice had lost that desperate edge. "If I show them proof that you're selling the truck, if I can prove the money's coming. Yeah, 2 weeks. I can hold on for 2 weeks." "You're sure? Because if you're really dying, Tyler, I'll figure something out. I'll take a loan against the house. I'll do whatever it takes." No, he said quickly. 2 weeks is fine. The doctors just said if I rest and take the medication they're prescribing, I should be stable. Just promise me you'll send every cent when you sell the truck, Dad. Promise me." "I promise," I said quietly. "I'll send you exactly what you deserve." "Thank you, Dad. Thank you so much. I have to go now. The nurse is coming to take me for more tests." He hung up. I sat there in my kitchen, staring at the photo of Tyler in his spa robe, and I felt something inside me turn to ice. He hadn't just lied. He'd weaponized my love for my daughter. He'd played on a father's worst fear, watching a child die, just to scam $50,000 out of me. This wasn't greed anymore. This was something darker. I called Judy Palmer. "I need to see you," I said, "today, and bring everything the investigator found." 2 hours later, I was sitting in Judy's downtown office, looking at a spread of photographs and documents across her mahogany desk. "He's been doing this for 6 months, Judy said, pointing at bank statements. "The PI tracked him. He's not running a tech startup. There's no company, no LLC, no business license, nothing. He's been living entirely on your monthly payments and Emily's salary." She slid another folder toward me. "And there's this." I opened it. More bank statements, an offshore account in Tyler's, name alone. The balance showed $200,000. "Where did he get that?" I asked, though I already knew the answer would make me sick. "He convinced Emily to refinance the condo, told her it was to invest in the startup to hire developers. She signed the papers, didn't read them carefully because she trusted him. He took $400,000 in equity from the property you gave her." My hands clenched into fists. $400,000. Where's the other $200,000? Judy pulled out more photos. A silver Porsche Cayenne with temporary tags. Registered in Tyler's name only, paid cash, $95,000. Another photo. Vacation condo in Miami, $110,000 down payment, also in Tyler's name only. Emily doesn't know? Emily thinks they're broke. He's been telling her they're struggling, that the startup is bleeding money, while he's parking assets in his name and hiding cash offshore. Judy pulled out one more document. And the PI found this in Tyler's email. It was a printout. From Tyler to someone named Dad, his father. The email read, "Everything's going according to plan. Old man is completely clueless. 6 more months of playing the struggling entrepreneur, then we convince Emily to sell the condo. Market's hot right now. We can get $1.5 million easy. Take our half of the equity, that's $750,000. Add the offshore account and Miami place. We're looking at $1.2 million total. Then we file for divorce. I keep everything in my name and disappear to the Cayman Islands before anyone knows what hit them. Emily will be devastated but broke. The old man will never see it coming." I read that email 3 times. Each time, the words burned deeper. This wasn't just theft. This was a long con, premeditated, calculated. Tyler had married my daughter specifically to rob her blind. "What do you want to do?" Judy asked quietly. I looked up at her. "I want you to prepare something special. Something he'll never forget." Part 4/4. The wedding. I wasn't invited to. 1 week later, Tyler sent out invitations. He was hosting an investment party at the penthouse to pitch his AI startup to venture capitalists. He needed to raise $200,000, he told potential investors. The invite list had 50 people. Emily had no idea until the caterers showed up. I know because I was parked across the street, watching waiters carry in trays of expensive food and cases of champagne. all charged to maxed out credit cards, betting on a score that would never come. At 8 p.m., I got out of my truck, but I wasn't wearing my flannel shirt. I was wearing a charcoal gray suit, tailored in Milan, Italian leather shoes, a Patek Philippe watch that cost more than Tyler's fake Rolex. I walked into the lobby with 4 men in dark suits flanking me, professional security. Vernon Hayes met us at the elevator. "Chairman Bennett," he said, bowing slightly. "Everything's ready." The elevator opened on 41. Music thumped through the doors. I stepped into a room full of people drinking my champagne, eating my food, celebrating a fraud. Vernon cut the music. Tyler saw me first. His face went white. "Security!" he shouted. "Get this man out." Emily turned, confused. "Dad, what are you doing here?" I didn't answer, just walked forward. The crowd parted. Vernon took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the building manager. This event is over. This apartment is being reclaimed due to severe violations, unauthorized commercial use, and non-payment of fees." Tyler pushed through. "You work for us. Get out of my house." Vernon looked at him calmly. "This is not your house, Mr. Crawford." I stopped in front of Tyler and Emily, reached into my jacket, pulled out a business card, heavy black cardstock with gold lettering, dropped it on the table. "Tyler," I said, "you think you rent from Bennett Holdings, some faceless corporation." I pointed at the card. "I am Harold Bennett, chairman of Bennett Holdings. I own this building, I own this apartment, and I am the landlord you've been planning to rob from the day you met my daughter." Dead silence. Emily stared. "Dad, you own the building?" "I own 5 of them. Built them with the money I made from jobs you were too embarrassed to mention." I turned to Vernon. "Play it." Tyler's voice filled the room through the sound system. "That old man is just a mobile wallet. He has no life. He's terrified Emily will leave him, so he pays whatever I ask. Look at him in those janitor clothes. We did the right thing hiding him away." Emily's hand went to her mouth. "Tyler, that's your voice." An investor stepped forward, Philip Brennan, a venture capitalist. "Hal Bennett, the developer who built South Loop." He turned to Tyler, disgusted. "You told me your father-in-law was a handyman." Philip walked out. The room emptied in 2 minutes. When they were gone, just us remained. "Tyler," I said quietly, "you asked if I'd send money. Remember what I said?" He nodded, desperate. "I promised I'd send exactly what you deserve." I gestured to the eviction notice Vernon held. "Here it is. You have 30 minutes. Anything left becomes property of Bennett Holdings." I walked to the elevator. Behind me, Emily was crying. The doors closed. 3 weeks later, Emily called. "Dad, I found documents, bank statements, an offshore account with $200,000, and emails to his parents about stealing the house and disappearing." "I know, sweetheart." Silence. "You knew?" "I hired an investigator the day after you told me about the wedding. I've known for weeks." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you wouldn't have believed me. You had to see it yourself." "I filed for divorce this morning," she said quietly. "And Dad, I'm so sorry. You were manipulated by someone you loved. That's what con artists do. Can I come see you? I'm heading to Ohio, going fishing with Uncle Roger Bennett. The bass are biting." "Can I come?" I smiled. "Yeah, sweetheart, I'd like that." I sold the penthouse for $2.5 million. Every cent went into the Bennett Scholarship for Trades and Construction. For kids who aren't afraid of calluses. Emily got $200,000 from me to buy her own place, in her name only. She passed her licensing exam last month, starting her own firm, Bennett and Associates. Tyler, last I heard, he's facing 18 months for elder financial abuse. The civil lawsuit is still pending. But I didn't do this for revenge. Sometimes a father has to save his daughter from a burning building, even when she doesn't smell the smoke. I'm heading to Ohio tomorrow. Emily's meeting me there. Uncle Roger's got the cabin ready. The road ahead is wide open. And for the first time in years, I'm not carrying anyone's weight, but my own. Tyler thought being special meant standing on someone else's shoulders, but the view's a hell of a lot better when you're standing on your own 2 feet. The hardest thing I ever built wasn't a skyscraper. It was the resolve to say no to my own flesh and blood. But sometimes the most loving thing a parent can do is let their child face the consequences of trusting the wrong person, because that's the only way they learn to trust themselves again.